a continuation of the lineup of activities that led to the making of Eze Dr. Eberechukwu Orji as Eze Aro the Ninth. Last week, if you recall, Mazi Ivi explained the difficulties encountered by Okenachi kindred to convince the three princehood families to give Aro one of their sons as Eze Aro. The family failed because all of them were interested on the stool. Both the three families and Okenachi kindred couldn't produce Eze Aro even when Mazi Orji Kano Orji served out his Arianzo period after the burial of His Royal Majesty Eze Vincent Ogbonia Okoro CFR and left for Mazi Augustine Ogbonia Okoro, who served as both Eze Aro as appointed by Obiora Okoro and later Arianzo Aro as extended by Okenachi kindred when the search for Eze Aro continued. You heard how Nzukwaru, led by Mazi Dozie Udensi, wrote a protest letter to Okenachi kindred to produce Eze Aro. The same was replicated by the visit of body of patrons led by Professor Okoro Ijoma to Okenachi kindred for the same reason. Even the Ojari Welfare Association, or is it union, led by Mazi Okechukwu Ibe, took Okenachi kindred to court to contest the extension of Mazi Augustine Kano Okoro as Arianzo Aro. Arrows from all walks of life needed Eze Aro badly, and traditionally it is the responsibility of Okenachi compound to provide one. However, since it was very clear that the three princehood families couldn't produce Eze Aro as demanded by the kingdom, it behoved on Okenachi kindred to take the bull by the horn. Several meetings were held open and nocturnal, and finally a unified committee was formed with prominent Omo Okenachi kindred and Mazi Kano Ivi as chairman. The committee, in agreement with the princehood families and Okenachi kindred, resolved to call for nominations for a selection contest. The three families agreed to the selection process and sent their nominees or nominations as follows: Prince Obiora Ogbonia Okoro, Asi Eko Oke family; Godwin Kano Ide from Kano Okoro Oke family; Eberechukwu Orji from Kano Orji Okoro Oke family. It is pertinent to emphasize that all these candidates agreed to the selection contest because none agreed to step down for the other when given the opportunity to discuss amongst themselves and resolve the logjam on who should go for them. The stage was therefore set for the selection contest, and the candidates appeared before the 7-man panel, discussed with them extensively and in a convivial atmosphere. The panel went into the selection exercise determined to be fair and firm based on their individual objective assessments of each of the candidates after listening to them in interactions and interview sessions that they all participated. The final outcome of the exercise was very clear and definite. 2 members out of the 7 panel members selected and chose Godwin Ide, while 5 members out of the 7 panel members chose Eberechukwu Orji as the Eze Aro. Thus, the unbiased chairman of the selection panel, Mazi Emmanuel Kano Ivi, announced the results as they were. Eberechukwu Orji has become the Eze Aro the Ninth, clear and unambiguous. And this represents Okenachi kindred and Ndioke royal family. That is the story of how His Eminence Eze Dr. Eberechukwu Orji came up as Eze Aro. Very transparent exercise, very traditional exercise, and very painstaking exercise. Let us join Mazi Emmanuel Kano Ivi for the continuation of his series on the making of the new Eze Aro. Happy listening.
The Unified Okenachi Committee worked together and recommended that a 7-man panel be set up to drive the selection processes that would select a suitable Eze Aro designate. It also recommended that the 3 royal families be written and urged to recommend any single candidate from among them who Okenachi could adopt as Eze Aro designate. But if they fail to agree on any single consensus candidate, then each of the 3 families should recommend one candidate from their respective sub-royal families who would compete for the only one vacant Eze Aro designate position during the selection exercise that will soon commence. The princess accepted the Okenachi kindred recommendations. Each of the 3 sub-royal families responded positively in writing and nominated their own best candidates, approved in writing by 2 members of their respective sub-royal families. A particular family, Orji Okoro Oke, sent in 2 nominations, But in the spirit of peace and reconciliation, the committee advised them to go back and reconcile internally with a view to agreeing on only one candidate within a given time limit. They complied. They did so. Prince Okekano Oji stepped down for his younger cousin, Prince Eberechukwu Enikano Oji. The three candidates that remained on the list then after this were as follows. 1. Prince Obioha Okoro for Asi Eku Oke family. However, he failed to appear, but he was duly nominated by his own family. 2. Prince Godwin Kano Ide for Kano Okoroke family. He was duly nominated by his people, by his family, and he participated fully and voluntarily in the selection exercise. Prince Eberechukwu Enikano Oji for Kano Oji Okoroke family. He participated fully and voluntarily. Prince Obioha Okoro, whose sub-family members duly nominated and was being represented by them at most of the fact-finding and reconciliation meetings all along, suddenly failed to honor the invitations extended to him to appear in person for the final selection processes. Proxy was not accepted. He had his reasons. The other two candidates from the other two families accepted their nominations, but they pleaded for extension of time to suit their traveling plans. The committee obliged them, and a final date of 17th October 2023 was agreed and set for all the candidates to appear in person, not by proxy, for person-to-person interactions preceding the selection exercise scheduled on 18th October 2023. During the interactive sessions, mainly aimed at achieving peace, reconciliation, and understanding among the princes to facilitate the selection exercise, we urge the nominated candidates to go and discuss freely among themselves and agreed on any one of them that would be their best consensus candidate for the throne. They met severally and freely, discussed among themselves for 2 consecutive days, but they failed to agree after each of the several meetings within the 2 days of who among them that will be the better choice or best choice. Even when their number reduced to 2, namely Prince Godwin Kanuide and Prince Eberechukwu Kanoji, the 2 princes, after several private and open discussion meetings, still failed to agree on any one of them that will be their consensus choice. None of them agreed to step down for the other. Rather, the 2 of them openly and boldly opted to go through competitive selection processes as would be driven by the panel of Umokenachi kindred, agreed by the Ndioke family. The 2 princes also agreed to support any of them that could eventually emerge as the chosen one. The panel proceeded and assured all the parties that everything would be done transparently and fairly, without fear or favor, under traditional conference. The exercise was conducted in line with necessary traditional requirements as agreed by all the parties involved. The key elders and leaders of the participating royal sub-families with their duly nominated candidates were present during the selection exercise held openly at Aro Council Hall at Oro on the 17th and 18th October 2023. They all participated fully and voluntarily, and all these were also covered in videos and photos. However, shortly before the selection exercise commenced, the then Eze Kanu Okereke and his counterpart started issuing unnecessary instructions to some Okenachi kindred leaders, including myself, Mazivi, as chairman of both the Okenachi Kindred Strategic Committee and the Eze Aro Selection Panel, as a then. They were emphatic on who they wanted the panel to select and who they would not want the panel to select as the new Eze Aro business to meet their own personal desire. Several calls and text messages were made and sent to some of us in that respect. The records are still available. We boldly advised them to stay clear and remain neutral on the matter. We saw their activities as acts of unnecessary meddlesomeness, distractions, and unwarranted interference with the traditional responsibilities of Umu Kennachi kindred in the selection of a new Eze Aro designate. We saw their actions as deliberate attempts to impose on Umu Kennachi and indeed Arochukwu Kingdom a stooge of Eze Aro of their own predetermined choice for some selfish reasons or purposes which we may not know. We ignored them and their disruptive tendencies and did what was traditionally and neutrally right and just, following due processes. We handled the task diligently, boldly, transparently, truthfully, without fear or favor. The selection panel members were as follows: Eze Utugugu Okennachi, Eze Bianco of Okennachi, who was unavoidably absent, but he personally asked Eze Ogo Amovi to represent him, and Eze Amaja of Okennachi, who was duly represented by Arianzu Isimbu, because the Eze Ogo is yet to be selected and crowned. Others included Dr. Nkem Okoro, Mazi PC Okoro, Dr. Azubike Okoro, and Mazi Ugochukwu Okorab. Mazi Makan Okorabibi, myself, was the coordinating chairman whose major task was to ensure that the panel members' tasks were discharged transparently, objectively, without any harassment and intimidation, and without fear and favor. The panel went into the selection exercise determined to be fair and firm, based on their individual objective assessments of each of the candidates after listening to them in the interactions and interview sessions that they all participated in. The final outcome of the exercise was very clear, definite, and concise. 2 members out of the 7-man panel selected or chose Prince Godwin Kanu Ide. The other 5 members out of the 7 selected or chose Dr. Ebere Chukwu Kanu Oji as the Eze Aro designate. As an unbiased coordinating chairman of the activities of the panel, I, Mazivi, boldly announced the result as they were. Dr. Ebere Chukwu Kanu Oji was the obvious, clear, and clean choice of Umu Kennachi kindred, including Ndi Okeroya family.
Thank you very much, Mazi Kanu Evi, for this brilliant work. God bless you and your committee. You have shown remarkable patriotism and love to your community. You will stand up tall to be counted in Aro Kingdom. Gentlemen, you have heard it all. The process that produced Eze Dr. Eberechukwu Oji, very clear, clean, transparent, and followed traditional known methods of selecting Eze Aro. Truth is that Okennachi kindred had challenges producing Eze Aro as required by Aro tradition from the 3 families who ordinarily couldn't even do so because all of them were eyeing the stool of Eze Aro. Thus, a unified committee was named by them with Mazi Imakanuivi, a true son of Okennachi kindred, as chairman. The committee agreed with the 3 families to nominate in writing 3 candidates from each of the 3 compounds or 3 families. The families agreed and nominated 3 of them, namely Prince Obiora Okoro, who didn't even go for the selection for his own personal reasons. 2, Prince Godwin Kanu Ide, and the last one, Prince Eberechukwu Kanu Oji. All the 3 and their families agreed to face the selection panel when it was obvious that the 2 of them couldn't really give way for one another. The elders of the 3 families sat with the committee in the selection process that produced Eze Dr. Eberechukwu Oji. It is very clear, therefore, that the work of Mazi Kanu Evi-led committee was thorough, unbiased, transparent, and in agreement with the traditional methods of selecting Eze Aro by the Okennachi kindred. Most importantly, in all the processes of selecting the Eze Aro, Okennachi kindred was key. Well, you have heard it all. And like Santana Advert will say, there is nothing more to add. Long live Eze Aro. Long live Arochukwu Kingdom.